All right, cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So as Lynn said, I'm with the Nature Conservancy. I am the Habitat Restoration Coordinator for the New Hampshire chapter. I usually work on our oyster reef restoration projects. So this was an interesting step out of my usual bubble. And if any of you environmental scientists are a little lost with the social surveying, I am right there with you. So we've been engaged with habitat restoration and land protection for a number of decades now. And we do have volunteer programs around the Bay in both our marine work and our land stewardship work. But we've recently begun thinking about how we want to work more with the communities around the Bay. And conducting this survey was what we thought the best way to tell us how to be more intentional and more thoughtful with what we do in the communities. So I'm really excited to share some of the results with you today. So I'll be going over the broad ideas and purpose of the survey, sharing a couple of the key trends, and then reviewing how you can find more information and resources on it should you be interested. See if I can. Okay, cool. So brief overview of why we conducted this poll and some of the uses of polling in general to advance conservation work. So the research can be used for a wide variety of public affairs objectives, and how you use it, of course, depends on those objectives. So the first one is policy and decision making. A poll can test the public support for various measures, ballot campaigns, political candidates. It can tell you whether or not to move forward with a policy or proposal, and it can often be used to influence or inform decision makers as well. Secondly, it's really helpful research for communications, and that's definitely one of the things that we honed in on for this survey that we conducted. You can really find out what kind of messaging or content connects with your target audience, and also who is the trusted voice in the community, right? Like who can best deliver the message that you have if it's not you. And it can also generate some really great social media content in this age of media. So we're thinking things like colorful infographics and fact sheets, things that are really easy to digest and engage with, especially for people with, little to no experience with environmental issues. And then lastly, the research can be used for partnership building. It can be used to build a wider ring of partners around an issue and help form coalitions that have targeted messaging and priorities, and unified messaging and priorities as well, which can be really hard to find sometimes. I'm pretty new to the social science field, but I think that things like community engagement and outreach tend to be really broad terms. And with so many priorities, it's nice to have some data to back up some of the decisions that you need to make. Okay. Sorry, this is awkward. I don't know how you guys have been doing this without notes. Very impressive. All right, so more specifically on the poll that we conducted. So we conducted a public opinion survey in towns surrounding the Great Bay Estuary and its tributaries. It ran from May to June of last year, so for about 2 weeks total. And we conducted a total of 861 interviews of adult residents with diverse backgrounds, beliefs, and socioeconomic statuses living in and around the zip codes around Great Bay. And you can see this map on the left here. So roughly 30 towns all divided up by zip code. And an important note here to point out is that we surveyed people up watershed as well. So not just people that are directly on or facing the Great Bay. We really wanted a broad overview of the whole bay. And we did this through both telephone and online interviews. So how did we do it, you might ask? We have a fairly small staff, and 800 interviews is a lot. And the answer is that we contracted out. We partnered with FM3 Research, which is a bipartisan national research polling firm, and they have decades of experience on conducting polls for things like local government and political candidates, ballot measure campaigns, and also environmental issues such as climate change and watershed protection. So they really had some important insights for us as we were constructing our survey. We were able to give them, the broad ideas and concepts and information that we wanted to get. And they really helped us hone our questions and play with the wording a bit to give us the best chance at getting the information that we were looking for. All right, and we were looking for a couple points of information, so we had a few goals for the survey. The first was to understand current perceptions residents have regarding the estuary, and to identify better ways to focus our community-based work and raise public awareness of our conservation efforts around the bay. So really what we're looking for here is social science baseline data. So as an environmental scientist, I really like this comparison of just like you wouldn't start an environmental restoration project without getting your initial data first, right? Like you have to get your starting point. we didn't want to start any of our community engagement strategies without first getting a baseline knowledge of where the community is at, what's their knowledge of environmental issues, and probably even more importantly, what issues are most important to them and how can we work in that space. And so, as I said, this survey was just kind of the best way that we thought to tell us how to do that. And then lastly, we're also sharing the results with partners and community members. And we're hoping that these findings will assist others to advance their conservation work as well. So as I go through this, please share this with others, friends, family, coworkers that couldn't make it today. All of this is meant to be shared, so please go ahead and do that. All right, moment you've all been waiting for. These are just a couple of the trends that we pulled out for the survey. I didn't want to get too detailed and specific with this and take out, specific data points out of context, but we do have a recording of a presentation that FM3 gave to us that is much more technical and detailed than the overview that I'll be giving. So if you're interested, please go ahead and take a look at that, and I'll have a link on my next slide to show you how to do that. But the first trend that we pulled out was fewer than 1/4 of residents of the Great Bay Estuary can accurately identify their watershed. We also gave them a definition of the word watershed in our questions, since we know that word can be is often misunderstood or unknown to community members. This is really typical. We knew from the pollsters that this is so common nationally, so it's not unique to New Hampshire, not a surprise, definitely not unique to Great Bay. Really, it just highlights an opportunity for education. Next up is water pollution is a broadly shared concern in the region. So we asked respondents to rate their level of concerns for a few different topics to sort of see how the environment stacked up against other common concerns. And we found that the pollution of rivers, lakes, and streams and Great Bay was actually of a higher concern than other things such as jobs in the economy, development, and taxes. So it's really top of mind for a lot of people in the community, which was awesome to see. And top concerns related to this include industrial pollution, use of pesticides and chemicals on lawns, as well as climate change. And nearly all of these were listed as a major concern for at least half the people. So they were asked to rate these concerns on a scale from not at all concerned to a little concerned, moderately concerned, so on. And then last, a majority of residents are willing to take a variety of specific steps to improve Great Bay's health. So when asked, as many as 3/4 of the residents said that they were willing to reduce the use of chemicals on their lawns and vote for ballot measure campaigns to support funding for the estuary and various other actions. So all of this was super exciting to see. It's nice to be able to put some data to what we already thought to be true of the Seacoast communities, which is that we're a largely engaged and passionate group of people, maybe needing some direction on specific action and incentives, but we're hoping that these results will give us the best path on how to find those. On our conservation team at PNC, we like to talk about finding the biggest bang for our buck, which is really just to say, how can we be the most helpful with the resources that we have? And I think what was really helpful about this survey was that we were able to just ask people what they wanted and what was important to them instead of trying to guess. So the results have been and will be really helpful to our conservation and our community engagement work, and we hope that they will be for others as well. And I think I came in under time, so that's all I have, and I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah,